All right, so this will be my 10-minute self-presentation. My name is Aaron Barocious. We'll start where we always start at the beginning, I suppose. So I was born in 1987 in a little town called Warsaw, Indiana. I ended up growing up on a farm there in northern Indiana. It was a lot of corn, a lot of farm fields. We lived on it was a smaller farm. It was about a little 10-acre mini farm. But growing up there was actually a great experience. I learned a lot as a kid there, just about life, about farming, about all kinds of things. We had a garden. We grew a lot of our own vegetables and canned food and froze food, and had all kinds of animals. We had horses and cows and chickens and goats and sheep, pigs, dogs. It was a great experience seeing animals born, learning about death with, when some of the animals died. And just overall was just a great learning time for me as a kid, just kind of growing up and having that exposure to the farm life and being outside. When I was about 7, we moved from our farm in Indiana. My dad got a job that transferred him to Florida. So at 7, 8 years old, we moved to Florida, a little town called Yulee, Florida. If you were to hop on 95 right down the road here and drive straight, it's the first exit once you cross over the Georgia border into Florida. It was a change for sure, growing up in Indiana initially with cornfields and farms and just a different, that Midwest, I guess, atmosphere. Moving to Florida, we were about 10 minutes from the beach, surrounded swamps all around us. Alligators were certainly a new thing. Move once we got down to Florida. I'd never had to deal with alligators before. So just a little transition there as a kid. I remember there was a period where I was afraid of alligators because I didn't know anything about them, and there were signs everywhere when I would go hiking or go to the state parks or anything like that. But definitely adjusted to that, got used to it. So spent the rest of my growing up years, I guess, in Florida. As a kid, as far as school, I was actually homeschooled. I didn't actually attend public school. I was homeschooled all the way through high school until I graduated. It was definitely different, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. It was a great experience for me. I got to interact with people of all different ages and learned a lot, and it really taught me how to self-study, self-motivate, and helped me focus on what I wanted to do for my future. Obviously, we didn't skip the important subjects, but I always had a big interest in the military and in joining the military. So ever since I was a kid, I played Army. I got books from the library about the military and about the Army. And so as I was growing up, and I just kind of learned more and more about what I wanted to do in the military and go in the Army. And I just kind of was able to tailor that in a little more specifically. And then once I got into high school, I played soccer. In Florida, even if you're homeschooled, you're able to do any extracurricular activities at local high schools. So I played soccer at the high school, and I also joined the ROTC unit there at the high school. So during ROTC, I really learned, again, more about the military, more about what I wanted to do and focus on. I was in a Navy ROTC unit, but I knew that I wanted to be in the Army, and that was where I was going to ultimately be when I finished high school. So finished school. I was actually about 19. I had about a year of a community college before I officially joined the military, but at 19 years old, I joined the Army down out of Florida. I went to Fort Benning, Georgia. Started my basic training. I went through basic training. I went through infantry training, and then also airborne school and airborne training down there at Fort Benning. From there, I had the opportunity to assess and attend selection for the Special Forces, or the Green Berets, if you have heard that term. And that was down here at Fort Bragg in North Carolina. so I got moved to North Carolina, went through selection. I was fortunate and very, very fortunate that I passed. I got selected, and so I was able to start training for Special Forces. My job specialty that I trained for was it's called a weapons sergeant, but my primary job was teaching and training weapons and tactics especially when we would deploy, working with foreign countries that we would work with, and we would be teaching and training them. Some of those different. My specialty was again weapons and tactics. So once I finished all my training at Fort Bragg, which actually included Arabic, I studied Arabic for a total of 1 year actually while I was in the military. I got moved to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. So at Fort Campbell, I was with the 5th Special Forces Group and did a lot of good training. I deployed to Iraq once with them and had a lot of great experiences, several other trips to the Middle East. But ultimately I realized, so I had my girlfriend at the time, who I had met when I was at Fort Bragg. I knew she was the one, and that I wanted to marry her, and I saw how hard the military could be on families and on family life, and how difficult it could be for spouses and for kids and things like that. So I knew that I wanted to do something different and get out, even though it was a hard transition. In 2012, I got out of the military over at Fort Campbell. We actually lived in Tennessee, right across the border. But like I said, even though I was weapons in the military, I did a lot of work with my medic. And it really got me interested in medicine and in that whole aspect of things. It wasn't an area that I had a lot of knowledge in until working with him. And so when I got out, actually as I was getting out of the military, I was actually in EMT school. And so I finished up EMT school there in Tennessee and started working for a department. It was Montgomery County EMS in Clarksville, Tennessee. Started working there as an EMT, enjoyed it, and just thought, well, this is something that I enjoy doing, and it's a great job. So I decided I was going to go to paramedic school. And so that was my next step. And I finished up paramedic school in 2014. And I worked there, worked my way through up to a FTO position, and also as a critical care paramedic. We did some critical care transports there for the county as well. So, but in 2017 into 2018, we decided, so back in another huge life event, actually in 2015, before we moved, my wife and I got married. We got married in September 2015, so we'll be married 5 years this year. I have our 5-year anniversary coming up in September, so we're excited about that, and I'm not going to lie, it has been awesome. She is amazing, and I love her. Probably the best decision that I've ever made. So, but we decided, my family was closer to North Carolina. Her family, she was from North Carolina. All her family's in North Carolina. So we decided we wanted to move back and be back in North Carolina. So in 2018, we moved back. I was able to get a job working with Duke Life Flight at the time. It was definitely different. Coming from the EMS side, I had done some transport, but predominantly 911 and EMS. And so I loved flying. I loved what I did there. But it was, and I learned a ton. I learned so much about medicine and what happens after, as a paramedic on an ambulance, I bring a patient to the hospital, and what happens as they go through their ED process and through the ICU process. And it gave me a huge respect for everything that happens in the hospital, but also for just the medicine, the additional medicine that I generally don't think about during emergency medicine on an ambulance. So, but as I was there, I realized that I missed 911. It's just a different world. It's a different side of medicine. So it was again another tough decision. But back in last year, actually July of last year, I transitioned out of Duke Life Flight and started working at Harnett County EMS, which is where I currently work. So I've been there not quite a year yet, but I know for me it was absolutely the right decision. I missed 911. I love, I guess that it's never the same thing twice, and every, you know, not every call is definitely life threatening. I think we all know that. But you do have those calls that remind you why you got into it, and those patients that remind you why you started getting into EMS. And for me, it was just a great transition, and I love it. And I'm so glad to be back into EMS, and I'll be doing that for the foreseeable future. So, and that was part of the reason for taking this class. I want to be able to help teach, and but whether it's at my department or through school and that primary EMS education, I love EMS, and I want to be involved with, I guess, moving it forward, both in practice of medicine and in teaching and bringing in future EMTs and paramedics. So that pretty much wraps up my, I guess, 10-minute self-presentation, and that's where I'm at right now. So thank you guys for listening, and I will maybe see y'all in class. If not, we'll see y'all in the videos. Have a great day. Bye.